Hello and welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV. I'm Dan and today we're going to be discussing Chelsea's biggest problem. I'm sure some of you know what that is already, but if you haven't guessed, it's our striker situation. We're still struggling to score goals from our number 9 position, and I really think this is why we're being held back as a club. We're struggling to identify a replacement for this role. It's been such a long time since Chelsea have had a deadly clinical striker. We've had so many square pegs in round holes in this position. We've played a false 9. We're playing young kids that obviously aren't going to be good enough. And it's the reason we're sat where we are, because if we could convert more of the chances that we've been so good at creating under Pochettino, as I've said before, we are very high up the list in terms of big chances created, but we're also high on the list of not being able to take them. And this is a huge problem at Chelsea. It's the biggest situation on our hands right now that I think could be solved within this January transfer window. However, with the recent FFP scares that we've seen to other teams and our name's been thrown in that hat and mentioned and things like that, I think the board are reluctant to spend big this season in January. And they're not the only board reluctant to do that. And a lot of other boards are trying to sell as well. Now, it's looking like a possibility that Broja could still leave this window. And if he is to leave, Chelsea will definitely need to spend on a striker this window, because we can't continue the season relying on Nkunku to be fit or playing a false 9, because it's quite obviously shown in previous games that isn't going to work. And Nkunku's shown this season that he isn't able to maintain fitness at this moment in time. Now, if Nkunku returns and is able to maintain fitness, we might actually have our answer. But is that a gamble as Chelsea fans we'd be willing to take? Because if we take that gamble and it doesn't work out, we may not have European football again next season. And that's what kind of worries me. So we're going to get into a couple of strikers that I think are probably most realistic that this could really happen for Chelsea. I don't want to set my sights too high. I don't want to set my sights too outrageous. I'd love to sit here and tell you that Benzema should be the signing that we should be making this January transfer window. But that now doesn't look likely. I think those rumours might have been exaggerated a little bit. And Chelsea probably don't really have the money to pay his wages at this moment in time. That worries me a bit, because we've obviously spent so much money on so many other players and are paying so many players a lot of wages. We could have put that into better quality and had smaller amount of players brought in. But let's look at this and try and be realistic. I want to put this one out on the table early doors that Yonderam from Aston Villa, his name's been linked with us throughout January. This isn't the answer. He's a young kid. He's inexperienced. He's very, very raw. He's barely got Premier League minutes under his belt. He's got a couple of goals. He looks good in the footage that I've seen. I've seen him score a really good goal as well. But this is not what Chelsea need right now. We've proven that inexperience isn't what we're looking for. So the strikers on this list all come with a nice bit of experience that this squad is really lacking. We'll start it off with the most likely transfer that could happen in January. And this is important because I don't think this is the best option, but in January, it may be our only one. We're looking at the Newcastle United striker, Callum Wilson. Straight away, I can tell some of you are thinking, hang on a minute, we are looking at the wrong Newcastle United striker. And I'd be inclined to agree. If you're going to go to Newcastle and attempt to buy one of their strikers, you'd try and buy Isak. He fits the age profile Chelsea are looking to sign. He's scored more goals this season, and I think his ceiling is potentially higher than where Callum Wilson's would be. Callum Wilson is also 31. He's the wrong side of 30 and is currently injured. Now, straight away, that worries me with Callum Wilson because so much of his career, he's been injured. He's torn ligaments in both of his knees that have led to huge spells on the sideline when he was at Bournemouth. He's had a lot of injuries at Newcastle, and it's ultimately hampered his career. He's done really well to have played for his national team and Champions League football with those type of injuries that can sometimes ruin a player's career. Fair play, he's done very well. And even this season, he's a 1-in-2 man. He's got 7 goals in 14 and 1 assist. He's done pretty well. And if he was fit, I'd be all over this transfer for about 20 million. I think it would be great. But this is a gamble that I don't think Chelsea can afford to take. Callum Wilson is not guaranteed to be fit week in, week out. And that worries me a little bit because this is an issue we have all over our squad at the moment. We never know who's going to be fit. So if we were to sign Callum Wilson and put all our eggs in that basket of Callum Wilson, what happens in 2 or 3 weeks' time when he picks up another injury or doesn't return from this calf injury that he's currently got, because his return date is currently unknown? Then what happens? We would have wasted another 20 million on a player that we now have injured all the time, and because of his age, and if he's continuing to pick up injuries, his value will just be decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. Yes, he's homegrown, and also if he is fit and he is playing, he's going to be doing his absolute best to get to the England squad at the end of the season. I'm not sure this is worth the risk though because of his injuries. I think he's a good player, and on his day, he's a really, really confident finisher that I think would be a good addition to this Chelsea team. But right now, because of the current injury that he's got and his injury record, I would have to say I'd steer clear of Callum Wilson because I don't think it's likely he'd be available for us week in, week out. And I think that's what's so important for Chelsea to find in all their signings at the moment, because it's become such an issue for us. Durability is a real key factor in terms of signing. If players can't maintain fitness, and they're proving that, should Chelsea Football Club be looking at them with our current situation of injured players? Now, we're going to stay in the Premier League and we're going to look at another striker who I think actually would be the best fit for Chelsea Football Club in terms of what he possesses of attributes and talent as a striker, as a player, and what he's already done in the Premier League. That's Ivan Toney. Ivan Toney is the type of striker that in recent enough years at Chelsea has done really well. He fits a similar mould of Didier Drogba, Diego Costa, and you'd probably even be able to say that his finishing is up there with the likes of Giroud, and he fits the mould of a striker that's done really well at Chelsea. He's not the type of striker that would fail at Chelsea. I'm actually certain of that. I think he brings enough confidence. I think he brings enough belief in his own ability. And sometimes at Chelsea, we've actually questioned that. I think we've seen the likes of Timo Werner, Torres, obviously, years ago. These strikers have really struggled at Chelsea because they've lacked in self-confidence and been sure that they are the right player to lead the line for a massive club. I think that is the issue that these strikers have had. Now, Toney doesn't strike me as that type of guy. I think he has the arrogance that you need to succeed in that position. You need that sort of, I am the man. And that's what Drogba had, that's what Costa had. And in recent years, they're the ones I'd go to that have succeeded so well at Chelsea Football Club. And they're the ones we compare any striker we bring in to. And I think Toney really fits that. The issue I have with Ivan Toney is that I don't really think he wants to play for Chelsea. And that concerns me because we've been burned with that before with Lukaku. I think Lukaku seemed so perfect, but then eventually that relationship broke down and we were left scarred as Chelsea fans. That relationship has scarred us with potentially going in for another big name striker for the fee that type of move commands. Ivan Toney on the pitch though, perfect. His hold-up play is probably the best of the 3 players I mentioned today. His creativity for a number 9 in this era is up there with the very top players. To be able to put the type of numbers away that he does and have the strength to his game that he does, and then have this creativity where he can find a pass, where he can drop deep, turn on the ball, and create for his teammates, that's rare. And I think this is why this is important to me, and I think he'd be the best fit, because I actually believe that our forward-thinking midfielders, if you like, or our wingers and some of those players and our creative midfielders that we have are the types of players that would thrive off of a player like Ivan Toney, where even if Ivan Toney's not having a game where he's scoring goals, he could create for them who can then score and put finishes away. That's the type of striker that does well for Chelsea, and then he can also create goals out of nothing. I think he ticks every single box. I think he's at a good age profile. I think this is the right type of move for him. It's obviously the same city. I think in terms of career-wise and choice, if he wants to win things, then I actually do believe Chelsea's the place that he should be moving. He says that he's always been a fan of Liverpool and Arsenal, and that's why that sort of worries me. And also, there's a couple of off-field antics I'm not too certain about, that if he is to move to a big club, they'd have to be kind of squashed. And I'm not talking about gambling or anything like that. I'm talking about the videos that we've seen on social media of him talking rubbish about his club and things like that. That's not a good look. And I don't know if I'd be confident in my number 9 talking like that, or being a risk of speaking like that on social media. And that concerns me with Ivan Toney. If he can get that out of his game, I genuinely think he would be a perfect asset for Chelsea Football Club to go and sign. Now, we all know that wouldn't happen in January. That would have to be something that happens in the summer. Another signing that would have to happen in the summer is Victor Osimhen. Now, Osimhen is another player I feel that ticks a lot of boxes at Chelsea Football Club. He reminds me of a young Didier Drogba. Now, I know that sounds obvious because of his age and things like that, but Drogba's game did change. And the last sort of memories we have of Drogba is a guy who held up the ball, was explosive in and around the box, probably isn't the type of player that was carrying the ball long distances around the pitch. It was just very short, explosive movements that would lead to goals and obviously win Chelsea trophies. I believe Victor Osimhen has that kind of mentality as well. I think watching him for Nigeria a couple of days ago showed me that he has that mentality. He knows if he's going to be the number 9 of his team, it's on him to go and win that game. And I feel like that's what we've lacked, that killer instinct in some of our other strikers in recent years and seasons gone by. Victor Osimhen is the type of player to run the channels, get on the ball, carry it long distances. That's what a Drogba at Chelsea in his early days was trying to do. That's what a Drogba in his days at Marseille was doing. That's what got him noticed on the European scene. Is Didier Drogba was this young, raw talent with pure strength and pace and power that was carrying the ball. There's that goal that he scored for Marseille that put him on the radar. And watching Osimhen, I saw that type of player, this rawness that, if harnessed, could be unbelievable. And I think he's shown his rawness has led to great success in terms of the goals he's scored and the seasons that he's had in recent careers. He's done it in recent seasons. He's done it in France. He's done it in Italy. That gives me enough confidence that he'd be able to do it in England as well. The thing that scares me with Osimhen is the price tag. If Victor Osimhen comes in for an excess of 100 million, if that's what the release clause is, there's going to be so much pressure on him. And what if it all goes wrong? Can we take that as Chelsea fans again? I'm not so sure. I actually don't think he's as ready-made for the team as Ivan Toney is right now. But I think with his age and his potential, his ceiling could be higher than Ivan Toney's. And that's why, if we're not going to sign a striker in January, and we can sell a couple of players that can command value in terms of our transfer kitty or what we have available as funds to spend, I would wait out until the summer to potentially put all of our negotiating power into having this Victor Osimhen deal done. I think there's enough Chelsea players in Osimhen's ears as well from past times that could help to make this deal be something that actually has potential. Even though there'll be clubs in the Champions League that I don't think Chelsea will be in at the end of this season, that Osimhen could quite easily go to, I feel like they could convince him that he'd be the man to take Chelsea to our former glory that we've seen in previous years. I believe Didier Drogba and John Obi Mikel could be key to making this move happen. And I think it's quite obvious to see they are probably speaking to him, trying to make this deal happen. On the pitch, Osimhen would be a player that would thrive running in behind teams, but a player that also has the ability to link up with his teammates and do well against low blocks and weaker opposition that Chelsea have actually struggled to score goals against this season. And that, for me, is why I honestly think there's no point rushing in January if the player isn't the right fit for Chelsea. And if we can sell and offload some players to generate funds, it's worth waiting for Victor Osimhen. Now, I'm sure some of you will agree with that. I'm sure some of you won't. And if you're new to the channel, I'd like you to tell me who your favourite striker Chelsea could sign is. Who would you sign if you had the choice of signing a striker for Chelsea? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're new, make sure to subscribe, like the video if you haven't already, and share it around to all your friends and see if they can suggest a striker that would be great for Chelsea as well. I will catch you in the next one. Hopefully, we make something happen before the end of January's transfer window. I'll see you in a bit.